His roommate simply looked away. He didn't laugh like the other two. He didn't help. He just looked away while the girl, smiling, sealed the entrance to the pit where he was dying. In 30 days, his mother would be taken into slavery, and he had just returned from the afterlife, and he remembered every face. Let's rewind 3 minutes back. So Jae-in punches him with 800 OM right in the solar plexus, and Cha Do-hyeon flies backward into the Mangal chasm, 40 meters down. A rib cracks against a rocky ledge and pierces the skin from the inside. The mana channel in his shoulder snaps like a rotten rope. Half a rice cake falls out of his pocket, and he thinks of it before he thinks of death. His mother had wrapped the patty in a rag with crooked stitches. She got up at 6 in the morning so he wouldn't leave hungry. And now he lies at the bottom in complete darkness and hears Jane's businesslike voice from above. Time of death? 6:42. They seal off the entrance. The lights go out. And this is where the bitterest part begins. A month and a half ago, she approached him in the library and asked about his skill. He told her everything. It was the first time anyone from the upper ranks had ever spoken to him. She remembered every word, not out of interest. She needed a registered F-rank corpse to write off the expedition's losses and collect the insurance grant. 800,000 gold. That's what his life was worth according to the Soh House's books. She even explained it to him before the blow. Calmly, you wouldn't have made it to graduation anyway. 2 of them laughed. The third looked away. Do-hyeon remembers that movement better than the blow itself. He counts his heartbeats. On the 200th, he realizes he won't die. The rib pierced the muscle but didn't hit the lung. Lucky or not. It depends on whether you consider the continuation of this life to be luck. And then he does something he's never done before. He cranks his ability up to the max. Not at a person, in all directions at once. An F-rank telepathy with a 2-meter range flies into the void like a stone into water. By all accounts, this shouldn't work. But he isn't transmitting words, just one thought. I'll remember every face, every name, down to the last one. The signal vanishes into the darkness, and the darkness responds. First, cold, then pressure. Then the sensation that someone very large and very old is turning their head toward him for the first time in 1,000 years. At the very bottom of Mangal, in a stone sarcophagus sealed with the 7 seals of the Council of Towers, lies Cha Yeonhwa, the Empress of Demons, the last of the first blood. 1,000 years of silence. And suddenly, a voice. Broken. With a taste of blood and rice cake. She answers. The channel opens. 2-way. 600,000 mana points press against his empty core at 47 OM from the outside. Alien. Ancient. The crystal around his neck flashes and does not change the number. F-rank. 47 OM. Because the crystal sees only what passes through the core, and the borrowed mana stands outside, invisible. No one knows this, because borrowed mana didn't exist until this very moment. The voice in his head is female and cold. You are of the Cha clan. It's not a question. Do-hyeon doesn't answer. He's busy. He's trying not to die. She sighs, and the pain grows quieter. It doesn't go away. She holds it back, like holding a door so it doesn't slam. Get up. He stands up. His ribs creak. His shoulder hangs limp. Blood drips from his fingers, but he stands up. Yeonhwa shows the way through images. A crevice in the north wall. It's not on any of the Academy's maps or the Council's maps, because the Mangal demons gnawed it out 3 centuries ago, and no human has ever made it through alive. But the demons sense her trail on him, the lady's aura. The first D-rank demon presses itself against the wall. The second falls onto its belly. The third runs away. 3 hours through a narrow tunnel. His left hand clutches his side. His right hand is dead. Moonlight at the end of the tunnel. Do-hyeon emerges a kilometer from the walls of Cheonhwa Academy. Night. In the registry, he is already dead. Killed in the line of duty. Low combat value. In 30 days, the House of So will take his mother into debt slavery. 30 days. He looks at the academy wall. A familiar figure walks along the outer patrol. Gyu-hwan, his roommate, C rank, 850 OM, the very one who just looked away. Yeonhwa utters 2 words in his head. Shadow of the first night. 6th tier technique. He doesn't know yet what that means, but he already knows that in a minute, Gyu-hwan will find out. Do-hyeon takes a step toward the wall and nearly falls. A rib. Yeonhwa clicks in his head like a mentor who's been handed a defective tool. Not like that. You won't reach the 6th tier technique at 47. OM. You won't reach it even at 600,000 if you don't have a body to contain it. Do-hyeon stops. He asks mentally for the first time. Then what? She answers not with words, with an image. A thin thread of darkness flows from his finger and settles on the dew of the grass without disturbing a single drop. Not a strike, a shadow. Just step into it. Do-hyeon looks at his shadow under the moon. He takes a step and sinks into it as if into water. The cold envelops him completely. The pain vanishes completely. For a moment, he is nowhere. Then he steps out of the tree's shadow 10 meters closer to the wall, and no one notices. Gyu-hwan on patrol yawns. Do-hyeon stands 3 steps behind him in total darkness, and Gyu-hwan feels nothing. There it is, the shadow of the first night. Not the force of the blow, the power of presence where you are not expected. Do-hyeon could kill him right now, one move. A thread of darkness under the ribs. He stands and looks at the broad back of the man who wished him good morning every day for a month and a half, and does nothing. Yeonhwa is silent. Then she speaks. Interesting. I thought you'd want blood. Do-hyeon replies in his mind. Blood is 800,000 gold in the So House account. Blood is a closed case and a grant in JN's pocket. If I kill him at night by the wall, I'm just a corpse that stood up. I don't need his death. I need them to give everything back. Yeonhwa in his head falls silent for a long time. And then she laughs. For the first time in 1,000 years, quietly, coldly, with interest. The Cha clan has always been like that. You're not cutting a throat, you cut the support. Do-hyeon steps back into the shadow of the tree. Gyu-hwan never turns around. Do-hyeon walks off into the night toward the city at the foot of the academy. He needs 3 things. A healer who asks no questions. A name under which he isn't listed as dead. And 30 days to make it happen. The city of Hunan clings to the cliff beneath the academy like scab. Here live those who serve the hunters, blacksmiths, healers, moneylenders, and those who buy the spoils without asking where they came from. Do-hyeon enters an alley where it smells of blood and cheap potions. Yeonhwa leads him. There, a healer named Old Gyeong worked for the Cha house when it still stood. She thinks the entire clan was slaughtered. Show her the mark. Do-hyeon stops. What mark? Yeonhwa sighs. Roll up your sleeve. On the inside of his left wrist, a faint pattern appears that was never there before. Black way, like a burn from the inside. 3 claws clutching the moon. The seal of first blood manifested when the channel opened. Do-hyeon looks at it and realizes that his former life is over for good. He knocks on the low door. A hunched old woman with eyes clouded by cataracts opens it. Blind. and yet she know right on his wrist as if she can see through his sleeve. Her face turns pale. She grabs his hand with bony fingers and pulls him inside, slamming the door shut. Impossible. The clan fell 30 years ago. Every last one of them. Where did an F-rank boy get the mistress's mark? Do-hyeon sits down on a stool because he can no longer stand. Yeonhwa speaks through him, and his own voice suddenly sounds colder and older. Heal him. Questions later. Old Gyeong drops the bowl because she's heard before, long ago, in her childhood. She drops to her knees right on the dirty floor. Mistress. Do-hyeon loses consciousness not from fear but from blood loss. He regains consciousness a day later. His rib is splinted. His shoulder is in a sling. The mana channel is patched up roughly, but holds. Old Gyeong sits beside him and stares at him with blind eyes. She tells him what he didn't know. The Cha family wasn't just a clan of hunters. It was the only family that knew how to work with borrowed mana. Mana that isn't given by a crystal or a core, but by a being on the other side of the contract. The Council of Towers wiped them all out 30 years ago, declared them heretics, burned the archives. Because a hunter with borrowed mana is invisible to the Council's instruments. He cannot be assessed. They cannot be controlled. Their power cannot be taxed. And Do-hyeon bears the mark, and he is 18 now. That means someone from the clan survived 30 years ago, hid the child, cast him aside among the F-ranks where no one looks. His mother, the woman who gets up at 6 in the morning and wraps a rice cake in a rag with crooked stitches. Do-hyeon sits down so abruptly that the wood panel cracks. She knew. All this time. Yeonhwa confirms quietly. She hid you from the council the only way she could, by making you invisible, weak, useless. An F-rank with a 2-meter skill range isn't a failure. It's a disguise they put on you in the cradle. And now the House of So is going to take this woman into slavery in 29 days. Do-hyeon stands up. Old Gyeong grabs him by the hem of his robe. Where are you going? You can't go to her. The house is being watched. If you show up, the council will know the mark is alive. Do-hyeon looks down at her and smiles for the first time since the fall. And it's not a good smile. I'm not going to her. I'm going to those who set her price. 800,000 gold pieces. I'll return that gold to the House of So. Gold for gold. And then I'll take 10 times that amount from them. Old Gyeong whispers. With what? You have no money, no name, no rank. Do-hyeon raises his wrist with the black mark. I have something no one else in this city has. I know how to kill those whom the council's devices deem worthless. And at Chunran Academy, there's a whole tower full of them. Yeonhwa in his head speaks slowly and almost tenderly. Now you're talking like an heir. Listen to me, boy. The first rule of borrowed mana. No one must know you have it. Let the crystal show 47. Let them consider you trash that miraculously survived. The most dangerous weapon is the one the enemy doesn't suspect. Do-hyeon nods. It's getting light outside. 29 days. He steps out of Old Gyeong's shack in a scrappy F-rank uniform, carrying a crystal that lies to everyone who looks at it, and with a shadow at his feet that now obeys him. Im Gyu-hwan is first on the list, not because he hit him, but because he looked away. Do-hyeon already knows where to start. Gyu-hwan fears only one thing, that the academy will find out where he got the money for his promotion to C rank. And that money comes from the same So House fund as the grant for an F-rank corpse. All it takes is a single shadow in the right room on the right night. And Do-hyeon knows how to walk in shadows. He takes his first step toward the academy wall. The shadow follows him obediently like a dog. And somewhere at the bottom of the pit, an empty sarcophagus under 7 broken seals waits for its mistress to finally rise. Gyu-hwan saw it and stopped. Then he laughed. The nervous, short laugh of a man who sees something that shouldn't be there. You were supposed to die. He said it so casually, as if he were talking about broken furniture. Then he activated Iron Skin. A wave of gray light washed over his body. His skin hardened to the density of a steel plate. T3 skill. 850 HP behind him. Standard protection for a patrolman. Do-hyeon stood 10 paces away. Tattered uniform, blood on his chin. His right arm dangled limply. A rib jutted out from under the fabric. The crystal around his neck glowed dimly. F rank. 47 HP. Gyu-hwan stopped laughing and stepped toward him. Well, this is it. He clenched his fist. Yeonhwa said one word in Do-hyeon's mind. Now. And Do-hyeon raised a finger on his left hand. Not a fist, a finger. A black spike burst from under Gyu-hwan's feet. It passed through the iron skin as if through wet paper, from bottom to top, through the right shoulder. It pinned him to the stone wall half a meter above the ground. Gyu-hwan hung there. His legs dangled in the air. The iron skin cracked around the spike in a ring of small shards. T3 defense, T6 penetration. A difference of 3 orders of magnitude. Yeonhwa guided his hand. The first of 3 mandatory applications, after which the technique would become his own. Gyu-hwan looked at the spike protruding from his shoulder, then at Do-hyeon, then at the spike. The crystal around his neck reacted automatically, scanning the enemy, standard function. The result flashed before his eyes, F rank, 47 OM. He began to laugh, hysterically, thrashing on the spike like a caught fish. This can't be! This can't be! This can't be! Do-hyeon approached. Every step was a struggle through the pain in his ribs. Yeonhwa was holding back his pain threshold, but not taking the pain away entirely. He had to feel it, so he would remember. He leaned toward Gyu-hwan's ear, and his voice sounded double, his own and hers, a cold feminine tone beneath a masculine whisper. Say a single word to anyone, and I'll come for your sister. Gyu-hwan stopped laughing. His younger sister, Im Soo-hyun, attends the junior academy. D rank, 13 years old. He knew that Do-hyeon knew, because he himself had told him about her in the room in the evenings, when they were still neighbors, when he still said hello. Do-hyeon pulled out the thorn. Gyu-hwan fell to his knees. Blood flowed from his shoulder. The wound was clean. The thorn hadn't touched the bone. It was precision. Do-hyeon looked down at him. Every morning you said hello to me. Every morning. And when she struck, you just looked away. Gyu-hwan didn't lift his head. He knelt there, trembling. Do-hyeon turned and walked away. Yeonhwa was silent in his mind, but through the channel he sensed something akin to approval. Not warm, cold, like the nod of an executioner who had assessed the precision of the first blow. The seals on her sarcophagus had lost 0.8%. Durability, 99.2 out of 100. The shadow of the first night was worth exactly that much. Every technique he takes from her arsenal weakens what keeps her at the bottom of Mangal. The Council of 7 Towers monitors these seals through the Cheonsu Observatory. The sensitivity threshold is presumably around 15%. As long as he's below the threshold, he's invisible. As long as he's invisible, he's alive. Do-hyeon returned to the academy through the laundry room's back door. His mother had worked here for 4 years. He knew every corner, every crevice, every route the janitors took. He changed into a spare uniform from his mother's locker. He washed the blood off with ice-cold water. He set his rib himself. Yeonhwa had shown him how. It hurt so much that he bit down on a rag embroidered with his name to keep from screaming. The crooked soaked up his blood and turned brown. He folded the rag and put it in his pocket. Then he lay down on the laundry room floor and closed his eyes. He couldn't sleep. In 6 hours, the academy would find out that his body hadn't been found in Mangal. In 12, the Soh House would send people to check. In 30 days, they'll take his mother away. 30 days. Yeonhwa spoke. Her voice sounded like stone striking stone. Listen, you have my power, but you can't use it openly. The crystal shows an F. That's your advantage. As soon as someone from the towers finds out that an F-rank boy is using 6th-tier techniques, they'll figure out where the power is coming from. And they won't come for you. They'll come for me.
And when they find me, they'll reset the sarcophagus and the channel will be severed. You know what happens when a two-way channel is severed?
He knew. Core burnout. Brain death. She paused. Then she added, and then I'll be alone again. For 1,000 years. He lay on the cold floor and felt through the channel how terrified she was. Not for him. For herself. For 1,000 new years of silence. It was honest. She wasn't pretending to be kind. He respected that more than Jane's smile in the library. He asked her through the channel, "What can you teach me?" She replied, "Everything the Demon Empress had known over 3,000 years. Every spell of darkness, every killing technique, every way to break a person without touching their body. But every application comes at a price, and the higher the rank, the higher the price." He closed his eyes. Through the laundry room wall, he heard the footsteps of the morning duty officer. Through 2 walls, the quiet murmur of students heading to breakfast. Somewhere in this building, So Jane was drinking tea and filling out a report on his death. Somewhere in the office, his name was being crossed off the "of the living." Low combat value. He opened his eyes. There were no tears in them. 30 days. Yeonhwa. She responded instantly. "Show me how to kill silently." The first lesson began on the laundry room floor at 6 in the morning. Outside, the Cheonhwa Academy was waking up. Within its walls, a dead boy was learning things that would turn archmages gray. On the 3rd day, Gyu-hwan brought him the first list. The names of 6 B-rank mercenaries hired by the Soh House to clean up the lower district. The cleanup meant one thing. The Soh House was tying up loose ends. The boy from Mangal had not been found. The body hadn't surfaced. Jane didn't panic, but she was a rationalist. Rationalists leave no loose ends. 6 mercenaries, each B rank, each around 3,000 OMT4 skills. Professional cleaners. Their task was to go to all addresses connected to Cha Do-hyeon and make sure that no one knew anything and would never know. The first address on the list was his mother's house. Gyu-hwan handed over the note with trembling hands. His shoulder was bandaged under his uniform. He said he'd fallen during training. No one asked twice. No one cared about a C rank with the iron skin skill. Do-hyeon read the list. 6 names, 6 routes. 6 patrol schedules for the lower district. Gyu-hwan was a good informant. Fear makes people careful. Yeonhwa studied the list through his eyes. 6 B ranks, a total of about 18,000 OM. To her, it was nothing. Dust. But for Do-hyeon, every use of her power cost seals. 6 targets, 6 techniques, minus about 1.4%. She suggested another way. 3 techniques, first tier, almost free in terms of seal costs. He didn't understand. She explained, "You don't have to interrupt them. You have to outsmart them." Shadow of the First Night costs 0.8% because it is the raw power of the 6th tier. But in her arsenal, accumulated over 3,000 years, were techniques for every task. Veil of Silence, T1, suppresses sound within a 5-meter radius for 12 seconds. The cost in seals is almost 0. The Mistress's Thread, T2, a thin line of dark mana invisible to crystals below A rank, can be used as a noose, as a tripwire, as a marker, minimal cost. Whisper of the Abyss, T1, transmission of a single image,
a single emotion directly into the target's consciousness. Range, 10 meters. Similar to his native skill, connection, but more precise and more terrifying. 3 techniques from the first and second tiers. 3 tools, 6 targets, 14 nights until the deadline. He left the academy that very night. The lower district greeted him with the scent of fabric and sewers. He had known these streets since childhood. The first mercenary was patrolling the docks area. B rank, stone fist skill, 3,200 OM. A large man in his 30s, a professional. Do-hyeon watched him from the roof. Through the channel, Yeonhwa commented, "Right leg, an old injury. He shifts his weight to his left when turning." Do-hyeon waited. The mercenary turned into an alley. Narrow, dark. The veil of silence settled over the alley like a blanket. The sound vanished. The mercenary didn't notice. People rarely notice silence until they try to scream. The lady's thread stretched from the eaves to the gutter at neck level. Thin, invisible. The mercenary stepped into it. The thread tightened. He clutched his throat with both hands and tried to scream. There was no sound. 12 seconds of silence. 8 were enough for him. Do-hyeon went downstairs. He took the mercenary's token, the contract identification number, the So House, a cleanup contract.
The So clan's seal in red ink. Proof. He put the token away and moved on. The second mercenary was sitting in a tea house at the lower bridge's intersection. Yeonhwa tipped him off through the channel. "Don't go in. There are 2 more there. The third and fourth. They're drinking together. 3 B ranks in 1 room. A total of 9,000 OM. Do-hyeon stood on the roof across the street and thought. Yeonhwa waited. She didn't suggest solutions. She suggested facts. He made the decisions himself. The tea house. Wooden walls. 1 door. 2 windows. An oil lamp on every table. He smirked. The lady's thread slipped through a crack in the window and wrapped itself around the base of the nearest lamp. 1 tug. The lamp fell. Oil spilled. Fire flared up instantly. Wooden walls. 3 B-rank mercenaries flew out the door one after another, coughing and cursing. The first, second, third, blinded by smoke. Angry, not afraid. B-ranks aren't afraid of fires. The abyss's whisper struck the first one right in the mind. A single image. A black spike piercing through the chest. Not real. An illusion. But the mind can't tell illusion from reality in the first 3 seconds.
The mercenary clutched his chest and fell to his knees. The second turned toward him. The lady's thread tightened around the back of his neck. The third saw what was happening and ran. Do-hyeon stood on the roof, watching. The third ran 20 meters. The veil of silence enveloped him. The thread caught up. 3 B ranks. 3 bodies. Not a single sound. Not a single trace of magic above the second tier. Any investigator's crystal would show that nothing serious had been used here. A fire in the tea house. An accident. Strangulation with a thin wire. A rough neighborhood. Business as usual. The fifth mercenary was patrolling the block near his mother's house. Do-hyeon arrived there at dawn. His mother was sleeping behind a thin wall. He could sense her through the channel. Not thoughts, a presence. Warm, quiet, smelling of laundry detergent and rice. Yeonhwa said nothing. But through the channel, he sensed that she, too, had felt that warmth, and that for her, it was more painful than it was for him. 1,000 years without warmth. The fifth mercenary died quickly. The sixth didn't show up. Yu-hwan sent a note the next day. The sixth had renounced the contract. 5 out of 6 dead in a single night with no traces of magic. The professional understood the signal. Do-hyeon stood in the laundry room and calculated. 5 technicians of the first and second tiers. Total cost for the seals? 0.6%. Yeonhwa's seals? 97.8 out of 100. F-rank crystal around her neck?
47 OM. The academy didn't notice a thing. 4 bodies were found in the lower district. The police chalked it all up to gang violence, but the So House noticed. So Baek Ho summoned his daughter to his office and asked why 5 B-rank mercenaries were dead on a route connected to the F-rank boy she had dumped in Mangal. Jane replied that it was a coincidence. Dead F-ranks don't kill B-ranks. Her father looked at her for a long time. Then he said he would send his people, not mercenaries, the house's people. 27 days until the deadline. Yeonhwa said in his head, "She won't stop." He replied through the channel, "I know." She paused. Then she said with something resembling interest, "You're not angry." He clenched the rag with his mother's name in his pocket. "No, I'm thinking." On the 10th day, Do-hyeon returned to the Chonran Academy through the main entrance. Alive. Officially dead in the registry, but physically standing before the gates in a clean uniform with an F-rank crystal around his neck. The guard at the entrance checked the crystal. Name, Cha Do-hyeon. Status, killed in the line of duty. The guard looked at him, then at the screen, then back at him. He called the senior guard. The senior guard called the office. The office called the rector. An hour later, Do-hyeon was sitting in Rector Han Mung-yeon's office. S rank, 50,000 OMT6, head of the Cheonran Academy for the last 40 years. A short man with a gray beard and a cup of tea he never let go of. He looked at Do-hyeon and said nothing. Then he asked, "How did you survive the Mangal Chasm with an F rank and broken ribs?" Do-hyeon replied, "He fell onto a ledge. I found a crevice. I crawled for 3 days. I made it out." The rector looked at him again. His S-rank eyes had seen a lot. But the crystal showed F47 OM. No anomalies. The borrowed mana remained outside the core, invisible. The rector took a sip of tea. The Mangal Abyss, 400 meters deep. Demons ranging from D to A rank dwell there. An F-rank boy crawled for 3 days and came out alive. He said this in an even voice, without a questioning tone. He simply stated the fact. Then he set down his cup. "I am restoring your status in the registry. Alive. Chonran Academy does not lose students, especially those whom they tried to kill on an expedition paid for by the third house." Do-hyeon didn't move. The rector knew, not about the channel, not about Yeonhwa, but he knew or suspected that he had been deliberately abandoned. The rector continued, "The So House filed documents to transfer your mother to the debt registry. Standard procedure for the families of deceased students. Now that you're alive, the grounds for the transfer disappear." Pause. Formally. Do-hyeon understood. Formally, the grounds disappear, but the House of So will find other grounds. Debts, taxes, fake contracts. Aristocratic houses always have other grounds. The rector finished his tea. "You need protection. The academy can grant temporary immunity for 1 semester. You and your mother are untouchable as long as you are a current student. There is one condition." Do-hyeon waited. "You must participate in the Inter-Academy tournament in 60 days. From Chonran, in the FB rank category." Yeonhwa laughed inside his head, quietly, like the crack of ice. The rector was putting him on stage, publicly, in front of all the houses and towers. An F-rank boy who survived Mangal. A story that would attract attention. That was exactly what the rector wanted. Attention on House So. Pressure. A scandal. Rector Han Moon-young was not a kind man. He was an S-rank politician who saw an opportunity to strike at the third house using someone else's hands. The hands of an F-rank boy. Do-hyeon stood up and bowed. He accepted the terms. He left the office and walked down the academy corridor. Students turned to look. They whispered, "A dead boy is walking down the hallway. A ghost from Mangal. F rank. He heard their thoughts not through a skill, through their faces, contempt, curiosity, pity. Gyu-hwan stood at the turn, pale. Do-hyeon walked past without turning his head. Gyu-hwan swallowed so loudly that a student nearby heard him. In the cafeteria, Do-hyeon took a tray of food for F rank: plain rice, vegetable soup, water. Food is ranked by rank. F rank gets the least. He sat in a corner. He ate in silence. Yeonhwa could taste the rice through the channel.
She fell silent for a full minute. Then she said, "I forgot." "What?" "The taste." He finished his rice. He took her portion too, mentally. She didn't say thank you, but he felt something warm through the channel, like a hand on the back of his head, for the second time. So Jae-in was waiting for him at the exit of the dining hall. She was standing by a column in her third house uniform, gold embroidery, white dragon skin gloves, A rank, 12,400 OM. She was smiling, the same smile as in the library, the same one before the blow to the solar plexus. She said she was glad he was alive, that there had been a misunderstanding, that the expedition hadn't gone according to plan and his fall had been an accident. She said this while looking him in the eyes, steadily, calmly, with a hint of sympathy in her voice. A perfect actress. Students stood around them, listening, watching. The beautiful heiress of the third house was comforting the poor F-rank boy who had survived Mangal. What a touching scene. Do-hyeon looked at her. Yeonhwa was silent, waiting. He replied, "Thank you." One word. Quiet. Empty. And he walked on. Jae-in watched his back. Her smile didn't change, but her fingers in white gloves clenched into fists. She didn't understand. The F-rank boy had survived Mangal. 5 of her mercenaries were dead. He returned to the academy and didn't say a word about what had happened. He didn't complain. He didn't blame anyone. He didn't run to the rector with a complaint. He just said thank you and left. That was wrong. F-ranks don't behave like that. They cry, they beg, they complain, or they die in silence. They don't return from Mangal and say thank you with empty eyes. That night, she sent a message to her father. The boy is alive. Other measures are needed. So Baek-ho read the message in the study of his estate. S rank, 50,000 OM, head of the So house. He read it and fell into thought. Then he summoned the steward. The boy is registered in the tournament from Chonggran. His mother is protected by immunity. Direct elimination is impossible while his academic status is in effect. So something else is needed. The steward asked what exactly. Baek-ho replied, the mother. She can't be taken into slavery. She can be accused of theft. Theft from an aristocrat's home removes academic immunity from a relative. The administrator nodded and left. 20 days until the deadline. Do-hyeon lay on the bed in the room he had been reassigned, alone, without a roommate. Gyu-hwan had been transferred at his request, officially due to a personality clash. Do-hyeon stared at the ceiling. Yeonhwa was speaking. She was telling him about the technique he would be learning tomorrow. Shadow step, T3. A short movement through a shadow up to 20 meters. Seal cost, 0.1% for 10 uses. He listened. He memorized. His fingers clenched the rag in his pocket. Crooked stitches. His mother's name on the back. She had embroidered both names, his and hers. Cha Do-hyeon, Cha Yeonhwa. The surname Cha. Yeonhwa paused. You haven't asked yet. About what? About the surname. He was silent. She waited. He said, I know we share the same surname. She replied. We don't share the same last name. A pause. A long one. Through the channel he sensed her age. 3,000 years. Like an ocean gazing at a drop of water. Sleep. I'll tell you later.
He closed his eyes. Sleep came instantly. She took his insomnia away, without asking permission. In the morning, a note from Do-hyeon was waiting for him.
The So family is preparing a theft charge against his mother. The hearing is in 5 days. Do-hyeon read the note. He burned it with a snap of his fingers. A tiny spark of dark mana. T1. Seal cost, 0. Yeonhwa remained approvingly silent. 20 days until the tournament. 5 days until the hearing. He did the math. There was enough time, but it was tight. The hearing for the Cha Yeonhwa case was scheduled in the Academy's small courtroom. The charge was theft of a silver candlestick from the guest quarters of the So house. The candlestick was valued at 300 gold pieces according to the inventory. Theft from an aristocrat's home is punishable by debt slavery for a term of 5 years. Academic immunity does not extend to criminal charges, so Baekho chose the exact amount. Not too large so it would seem plausible, not too small for the punishment to be severe. 300 gold pieces, a laundress's annual earnings. His mother stood before the judge in her only clean clothes. She was small, thin, her hands red from laundry detergent. 42 years old, she looked 60. She didn't cry. She stood straight and looked ahead, just as he had stood at the edge of Mangal. Back straight. Her eyes were empty. That was his mother. The judge read the charges. A representative of the So house presented an inventory of the property, the manager's signature, the family seal. 2 witnesses from the So house staff who had seen the laundress Cha Yeonhwa carry an item out of the guest quarters. Everything was in order. Everything was legally flawless. Do-hyeon sat in the courtroom, the only spectator. F rank. Students didn't come here. They weren't interested. A trial against a laundress. A 5-minute case. Yeonhwa was silent. She looked at his mother through his eyes and remained silent. Through the channel, he sensed something strange. Not anger, not pity. Recognition. As if she had seen this scene before. The judge asked the defendant what she had to say in her defense. The mother replied quietly. She didn't take the candlestick. She works in the laundry. She is not allowed in the guest quarters. The representative of the So house objected. Witness testimony says otherwise. That's all. The case is closed. Sentence in 10 minutes. Do-hyeon stood up. The judge looked at him. An F-rank boy. A student on the quota for the poor. What could he say? Do-hyeon approached the table of the representative of the So house. He placed 6 tokens on the table. 6 contract identification numbers. The red seal of the So clan on each one. A contract for the cleanup of the lower district. The contract targets were addresses linked to Cha Do-hyun, a student at Chonran Academy. The So house representative turned pale. The judge looked at the tokens. Do-hyun said calmly, these tokens belong to 6 B-rank mercenaries that the So house hired to eliminate witnesses connected to me. 5 of the 6 were found dead in the lower district 3 days ago. The case is under investigation by the city guard. The contracts were signed by the manager of the So house, the same manager whose signature is on the inventory of the stolen candlestick. The courtroom fell silent. The judge picked up one of the tokens. He turned it over. The So family seal. Authentic. Do-hyeon continued. I asked the court to stay the theft case until the investigation into the murders in the lower district is complete. Since the prosecution's key witness and the signatory of the inventory is also the signatory of the hit contracts, the representative of the So house opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. Yeonhwa smirked in his mind. She wasn't helping. It was his move, pure, without dark mana, without techniques. The tokens he had taken from the mercenaries' corpses 3 nights ago. He could have destroyed them. He kept them because he believed.
The judge called a recess. Do-hyeon's mother stood there, not understanding what was happening. He walked over to her. She looked at him. Her eyes were wet, but she wasn't crying. She reached out and smoothed his collar. The uniform fit him perfectly. He had found his size. She noticed that before anything else. Not the tokens, not the trial. The collar. Yeonhwa turned away inside the channel, like someone who doesn't want to be seen in a moment of weakness. 2 hours later, the judge handed down his decision. The case was suspended. Do-hyeon's mother was free until the investigation was complete. Immunity was preserved. A representative from the So house left the courtroom and immediately sent a messenger to the So estate. Do-hyeon knew what would happen next. So Baek-ho wouldn't stop. He would summon the manager.
The manager would say he didn't know where the boy got the tokens. Baek-ho wouldn't believe him. He would start digging, and in the process, he'll discover that his daughter didn't just dump the boy in Mangal for a grant. She dumped a boy who came back, who survived, who silently gathered evidence, who sat in the courtroom and laid it out with a surgeon's precision. F rank, 47 OM. Yeonhwa asked in his head, "You could have shown your power, broken the table, scared them. Why didn't you?" He replied through the channel, "Because fear passes, but the documents remain." She was silent for a long time. Then she said, "You're not like my descendants." He didn't ask what she meant. 20 days until the tournament. Mother is safe, temporarily. The trial is suspended, temporarily. Everything is temporary. But he'd gained 5 days, and now the House of So had to spend time covering up the traces of the murders in the lower district. And the House of So's time is time they aren't spending on him. That evening in the laundry room, he trained. Shadow step, T3, 20 meters through the shadows. Yeonhwa guided his body. The second application of the 3 required ones. After the third, the technique would be his. He moved from wall to wall, from shadow to shadow, silently, quickly. His body was memorizing it. Muscles, legs, spine. His ribs no longer hurt. Yeonhwa had accelerated the healing through the channel. Minimal dark mana, T1 regeneration, almost free through the seals. In the middle of training, the laundry room door opened. Do-hyeon stopped in the shadow by the wall. He held his breath. A girl entered, short, dark hair tied in a ponytail, bags under her eyes from lack of sleep. D rank, healing department uniform. Nam So-yeon, the daughter of a doctor from the lower district, the only one who treated his mother for free. She had come for clean bandages. The healing ward was always in need of bandages, and the laundry room was closer than the supply closet. She didn't see him. He was standing in the shadows 3 meters away from her. She gathered the bandages. Then she stopped. She looked at the wall where he had been standing a second ago. There was a wet footprint from his boot on the floor. She frowned. Then she shrugged and walked away. Yeonhwa said, "Careless." He nodded. Next time, he'd be more careful. But through the channel, he sensed that Yeonhwa had memorized So-yeon's face, and that she didn't like that face. Not out of jealousy, out of calculation. The people you're attached to are levers that enemies use. He knew that. 15 days until the tournament. The next morning, announcements appeared at the academy. Inter-Academy Tournament. Category FB rank. Representative of Chongran Academy, Cha Do-hyeon, F rank. Skill, telepathic link. The students looked at the announcement and laughed. An F rank at the tournament. The joke of the season, a living target. In the hallway, a guy he didn't know approached him. Tall, expensive uniform. The Cho House crest on the breast pocket. B rank. Skill, silver blade. Cho Yeonhwa, second son of the Cho House, exiled from the clan for lack of ambition. He stopped in front of Do-hyeon, looked down at him, and said, "I hear you survived Mangal." Do-hyeon didn't answer. Yeonhwa smirked.
I hate the So House. I don't need a reason. But if you need a public figure for what you're planning, I'm free on Tuesdays. Do-hyeon looked at him. Yeonhwa assessed him. B rank, 3000 OMT4 skill, aristocratic upbringing, connections at court, hatred for the House of So. Useful. Do-hyeon nodded. Yoo-jun nodded back and left. Simple. No oaths, no handshakes. Two people who hate the same thing. That's enough. That night, Do-hyun stood on the academy roof and looked at the stars. Yeonhwa watched with him, through his eyes. For 1,000 years, she had seen only the stone of the sarcophagus. Now she saw the sky. She said, "When the seals drop to 0, I will come out, and I don't know who I will be." He remained silent. She continued, "You must know this. I was the Demon Empress. 3,000 years. I burned cities. I ate the hearts of kings. I turned people to dust. And I liked it." Silence. The stars didn't twinkle. The wind didn't blow. He said, "But you didn't let me kill the child witness on the third night." She didn't answer. He repeated through the channel, "You said, don't sully yourself." "That's not why I found you." A pause. A long one. 3,000 years long. She said, "Don't make more of this than there is." He didn't, but he remembered, and she knew he had remembered. 15 days until the tournament. Seals at 96.9%. F-rank crystal. 47 OM. Somewhere on the estate of the House of So Jane, she was cleaning her crimson chain and thinking about the boy who had said thank you with empty eyes. Somewhere in the observatory, a technician checked the seal readings and noted in the log that the deviation was within normal limits. Somewhere at the bottom of Mangal, in a stone sarcophagus, the body of the Demon Empress smiled for the first time in 1,000 years. So Jane came for him on the 12th day. Not alone. She sent 4, not mercenaries, students. 2 B ranks and 2 C ranks from the third house's retinue. Children of aristocrats who ate out of the So house's hands and dreamed of joining the main guard after graduation. They found him in the East Wing corridor after evening classes. The corridor was empty. The surveillance cameras were off. Cha Yeonhwa had warned him an hour ago. A note in the pillowcase. 4 of them. East Wing. After the 6th bell. The cameras will be down. Do-hyeon arrived on time. The 4 stood in a semicircle by the window. The eldest among them, Park Tae-sun, B rank 3,400 OM, with the flame shield skill, stepped forward. He said Do-hyeon had no business being in the tournament. That an F rank was a disgrace to the academy. That if he voluntarily withdrew, nothing would happen. He said this with a smile. Jae-in had taught them to smile. Do-hyeon stood and listened. Yeonhwa counted. 4 of them. A total of 10,600 OM. The corridor was 6 meters wide. 2 windows, 1 door at the end. Yeonhwa suggested shadow step and ladies' thread. 2 techniques, minimal cost. He refused. Through the channel, not here. She didn't understand. He explained. The cameras are dead, but it's the academy corridor. Traces of a fight on the walls will trigger an investigation. Any investigation means attention. Attention means risk. She paused. Then she said, with something resembling irritation, "Then what?" He answered with a single word, "Witness." Park Tae-sung finished his speech and stepped toward him. Do-hyun didn't move. Instead, he turned his head toward the door at the end of the corridor. The door was open. Behind it stood Cha Yeonhwa, B rank, 3,000 OM, the Cha House crest on his breast pocket. In his hand was a recording artifact, a small crystal on a chain. It glowed blue. He was recording. Yeonhwa waved his hand at the 4 of them. Tae-sung stopped. He looked at the recording artifact. He looked at the Cho House crest. The Cho House was the 5th house, lower than the So House in the hierarchy, but high enough for a recording bearing the Cho House crest to become a legal document. 4 against 1. At the Academy. The cameras were intentionally turned off. Intimidation of a tournament participant. Article 12 of the Academic Code. Expulsion and a fine imposed on the family. Taesong spat on the floor. He turned around. The 4 left, without a word. Yijun approached Do-hyeon. He turned off the artifact. He said he was free on Tuesdays of all days. Do-hyeon didn't smile, but he nodded. Yeonhwa said in his head, "You could have killed them in 3 seconds." He replied, "Dead students mean an investigation. A recording is a weapon that works longer." She paused. Then she said, 3,000 years ago, I solved such problems differently." He replied, "That's why you're in a sarcophagus." Silence in the channel. Long. Cold. Then she laughed. For the first time, not like cracking ice, like a human. On the 13th day, Jae-in learned about the recording. Gyu-hwan reported that she had summoned Tae-sun to her, and after their conversation, he came out pale and with a bruise on his cheekbone. Jane did not tolerate failures. She changed tactics. Do-hyeon knew because he knew her. For a month and a half in the library, she told him as much about herself as she drew out of him. He listened. He memorized. She was a rationalist. When one tool broke, she took the next. The mercenaries failed. The trial failed. Intimidation had failed. The next tool would be more serious. She would challenge him to the Tournament of Honor, a formal one-on-one duel, an ancient law of the aristocratic houses. The challenge cannot be refused if both parties are students of the academy. Death in the Tournament of Honor is legal. Legalized murder. Gyu-hwan confirmed on the .meet. Jae-in submitted the application. Tournament of Honor. Jae-in, A rank, versus Cha Do-hyeon, F rank. The grounds. An insult to the honor of the So House. The specific nature of the insult was not specified. The law did not require it. The word of an aristocrat was sufficient. Do-hyeon read the application and looked at the date. 3 days before the inter-academy tournament. If he died in the Tournament of Honor, he wouldn't live to see the main event. His mother would lose her immunity. The So House would take her that very day. A clean scheme. Yeonhwa appreciated it. Rational, beautiful, cruel, just like Jane herself. But Jae-in wouldn't enter the arena alone. Do-hyeon knew that. She had summoned him in her name, but the law allowed for a substitute, a clan champion, one who fights on behalf of an aristocrat. And the House of So had a champion, their chosen one, Kang Dae-ho, A+ rank, 18,000 MP, T5 skill, bloody shackles. The So House's bodyguard since the age of 15, 26 victories in the Tournaments of Honor, not a single defeat. Not a single surviving opponent. Gyu-hwan handed over the dossier. Height, 192 centimeters. Weight, 98 kilograms. Left-handed. Prefers close combat. Bloody shackles create chains of condensed mana that bind the opponent to the ground. The more the victim resists, the tighter the shackles become. Against B ranks, the fight lasts less than a minute. Against A ranks, 2 minutes. Against Do-hyeon, according to his calculations, 5 seconds. F rank versus A+, 47 OM versus 18,000. The stadium will witness an execution, not a fight. That is exactly what Jane needs. The public death of an F rank, legal, clean, with paperwork. Do-hyeon trained for 5 nights in a row. Not in the laundry room, Yeonhwa found a better place. An underground hall beneath the east wing. An old armory abandoned 100 years ago. No cameras, no patrols, no random healers with bandages. He mastered new techniques. Shadow Step became his own after the 3rd use. 20 meters through the shadows, soundless, instantly. Yeonhwa unlocked the next tier for him, Clawed Shadow, T4, a strike from the shadows at a distance. Black blades that form from any shadow within a 10-meter radius and strike the target. Pierces defenses up to and including T4. 3 mandatory uses under her guidance. First, a shadow on the wall stretched out and struck a stone column. The column cracked to the depth of a palm. He felt Yeonhwa's mana pass through the channel, hot, dark, with a hint of something alive. Second, 3 at once, 3 strikes, 3 cracks. His accuracy was improving. Third, 1 shadow, 1 strike. The column split in half. The technique became his own. The seals lost 0.4%, total 96.5. He stood in the dust of the destroyed column, breathing heavily. Not from fatigue, from the sensation. Every time he used her power, he felt the edge, the line between himself and her. She was the ocean. He was the glass. The ocean doesn't fit in a glass, but it can flow through it. And every time the flow passed through, the walls of the glass grew slightly thinner. Yeonhwa felt it too. She didn't speak, but he knew, through the channel. 3 days until the Tournament of Honor. He was ready, not for victory, for the performance. Because the Tournament of Honor isn't a fight, it's a stage. And on stage, what matters isn't who is stronger, but who controls the story. Yeonhwa approved. She was the Empress. She knew more about stages than anyone else in 3,000 years. Slower, she said. Let him watch. Let him count. And only then break him. He nodded. In his pocket lay a rag with crooked stitches, browned by his blood. He clenched it and spoke into the darkness of the empty armory. Every face, every name. Yeonhwa remained silent, but through the channel, he felt her clench something inside herself, like a fist, like a promise.
In the morning, he stepped out into the hallway and saw the announcement. Tournament of Honor. So Jae-in versus Cha Do-hyeon, substitute from the So House. Kang Dae-ho, A+ rank. The Academy's small stadium, free admission. The students were already discussing it. Bets were being taken 10-1 in favor of the Anointed One. No one had bet on Do-hyeon, not a single coin. The small stadium at Cheonran Academy held 5,000 spectators. On the day of the Tournament of Honor, it was 3/4 full. The students had come to watch the chosen one of House So kill an F rank in 5 seconds. The odds had reached 15-1. One of the underclassmen was selling rice balls and shouting that this was Cha Do-hyeon's last fight. Grab some while they're still fresh! Do-hyeon stood in the corridor beneath the stands and listened to the noise of the stadium through the wall. Yeonhwa was silent. She was focused. Through the channel, he sensed her like a taut string. She was preparing. Not for the fight, for what would come after. He stepped into the arena. The stadium roared. Then it fell silent. Then someone laughed. He understood why. He was wearing a uniform made from scraps. That very one. Torn and patched. The sleeves were 2 fingers too long. He could have found another one. He didn't. Yeonhwa asked why. He didn't answer. But she understood through the channel. He wanted Jae-in to see that uniform, so she would remember the morning she threw it into the Mangal. So the last thing she would see before her champion's defeat would be the fabric she had stained with his blood. Kang Dae-ho emerged from the other side of the arena. 192 centimeters, 98 kilograms, left-handed. He wore the So clan's battle uniform, black with a scarlet border, the clan crest on his back. He looked at Do-hyeon and didn't smile. A professional, not a sadist, just a man who kills for money and does it cleanly. In the Imperial box sat Rector Han Moong-young with a cup of tea. Next to him were 3 observers from the 2nd and 5th towers. Not the archmages themselves, envoys, but their presence meant the towers were watching.
In the So House box sat So Baek Ho, S rank, 50,000 OM. He stared at the arena expressionlessly. Next to him was Jae-in, white gloves, a smile, that very one. The judge stepped into the center of the arena. He announced the rules. Tournament of Honor.
To the death or surrender. Magic permitted. Artifacts permitted. Outside assistance is prohibited. The match begins at the sound of the gong. Do-hyeon stood unarmed, hands at his sides. The crystal around his neck glowed dimly. F rank, 47 OM. The stadium watched a boy in a uniform made of scrap metal face off against a warrior in battle armor, costing the annual budget of the lower district. The gong sounded. Dae-ho didn't wait. A professional doesn't give a weak opponent time. The bloody shackles fanned out. 6 chains of condensed A+ rank mana, 18,000 MP each. They flew toward Do-hyeon at a speed that a C rank wouldn't have time to blink at. Do-hyeon took a step to the left, shadow step, T3, 20 meters through the shadow of the stands. He vanished from where he stood and appeared at the far wall of the arena. The stadium gasped, not at the technique, at the fact that an F rank had moved at all. Dae-ho turned, his eyes narrowed. He hadn't expected it, but he wasn't surprised. He spun the shackles again. 6 chains snapped toward the new location. Do-hyeon stepped again. The shadow of a column, 20 meters. He was now standing behind Dae-ho. Yeonhwa calculated. 2 shadow steps. Cost in seals, 0.02%. Almost free. Dae-ho spun around. Quickly, the chains struck the ground. A fan. Not at a single point, but in a circle. Clever. You can't dodge if the strike covers the entire space. Do-hyeon didn't dodge. He raised his left hand. Clawed shadow. T4. 3 black blades burst from the shadow beneath Dae-ho's feet and struck the chains from below. T4 against T5. It didn't pierce through, but it deflected. The chains wavered. For half a second. Do-hyeon stepped in that half second. Shadow step. 3 meters. Straight toward Dae-ho, within arm's reach. The stadium fell silent. An F rank stood within the A+ rank's strike zone. Suicide. Dae-ho reacted instantly. The shackles tightened around Do-hyeon. All 6 chains. 18,000 OM of pressure per square centimeter of body. Do-hyeon didn't resist. The shackles tightened. He stood motionless. The chains cut into his shoulders, ribs, and legs. The stadium watched as the F-rank boy stood wrapped in crimson chains and did not fall. He did not scream. He did not twitch. Yeonhwa held his body through the channel, not by force, by controlling the pain. She took the pain signal onto herself, all of it. She felt every chain like red-hot wire on her own skin. In the sarcophagus at the bottom of Mangal, the Empress's body twitched. The seals creaked. Dae-ho frowned. The shackles worked on the principle of resistance. The more the victim struggled, the tighter they became. But if the victim did not resist, the shackles would not tighten any further. Stalemate. Do-hyeon stood in chains. He looked Dae-ho in the eyes and smiled. Not with his own smile. Hers. Cold. Ancient. 3,000 years old. Dae-ho took a step back, involuntarily. Instinct. Something inside him told him that the creature before him was older and more terrifying than anything he had ever seen. That step back cost him the fight. Because when he retreated, the tension in the chains slackened for a split second. Do-hyeon moved his right hand. A single movement. The lady's thread. T2. As thin as a hair. Invisible to crystals below A rank. It wrapped itself around Dae-ho's right wrist, the very one through which he controlled the shackles, and tightened. Not much. Enough to interrupt the flow of mana for a single second. The shackles flickered, disappeared. for a single second. The clawed shadow struck from below. T4.
3 blades into his unprotected right side. Do-hyeon managed to activate his defense. Partially. He parried 2 blades with pure mana. The third got through. Not deep. A cut from his hip to his rib. Blood on his black uniform. The stadium gasped. Do-hyeon jumped back. He looked at the cut. He looked at Do-hyeon. His crystal automatically scanned the opponent. F rank. 47 OM. He said aloud for the whole stadium to hear. This can't be. Rector Han Mung-young placed a cup of tea on the railing of the box. He didn't drop it. He set it down. Carefully. His hand didn't tremble, but the tea in the cup trembled. Jae-in in the Seoul House box stopped smiling. For the first time in the entire fight. So Baek-ho gripped the armrest of his chair. The wood cracked under the S-rank's fingers. Do-hyeon stood in the arena. Do-hyeon's blood on his right hand. A uniform made from scrap. The sleeves 2 fingers too long. A crystal around his neck. F. Yeonhwa said in his head, slower, let him count. He let Do-hyeon get up. Let him regroup. Let the stadium see that the A+ rank was bleeding out while the F rank stood unscathed. And only then did he attack. Do-hyeon attacked seriously, without restraint, without counting on an easy victory. The shackles changed shape. 6 chains merged into 2, thick, solid, each like a log of compressed mana. 18,000 MP concentrated into 2 strikes instead of 6. He struck from above. The arena cracked where the first chain struck. The stone shattered into fragments. Do-hyeon vanished with a shadow step. The second chain struck the spot where he had appeared. He vanished again. The third strike. The fourth. Do-hyeon was shattering the arena. Each strike left a crater half a meter deep. The stadium watched as an A+ rank chased after an F rank and couldn't land a hit. Someone in the stands began counting aloud. 5, 6, 7 dodges. Yeonhwa calculated the cost. Shadow Step was almost free. But Do-hyeon was spending mana with every strike. 18,000 MP is a lot, but not infinite. Each strike on the arena cost him about 400 MP. 7 strikes. 2,800 MP spent. 15,200 left. Do-hyeon counted along with her. He waited. Do-hyeon stopped. He was breathing heavily. The cut on his side was bleeding. He looked at Do-hyeon with the eyes of a man who, for the first time, didn't understand what was happening. 26 fights. 26 victories. Not a single opponent had lasted more than 2 minutes. This fight was in its 4th. Do-hyeon changed tactics. The shackles split apart again, but not into chains, into a net, thin, wide, covering the entire arena from wall to wall. You can't dodge if the blow is the floor beneath your feet. The net fell. Do-hyeon felt Do-hyeon's mana press his feet against the stone. Not chains, gravity. The bloody shackles, the maximum surface area acted like an anchor, pulling him down. Every step took as much effort as climbing a mountain. The shadow step required a shadow. The shadow required freedom of movement. There was no freedom under the net, Yeonhwa said. Now, he understood. She had opened the channel wider. Not T4, T6, the shadow of the first night. The very same technique he'd used to pin Gyu-hwan to the wall on the first night. The spike burst out from the arena floor. Black, sharp. It wasn't aimed at Do-hyeon. It struck the arena floor, right in the center of the net. T6 against T5. The spike tore through the net like a knife cutting through fabric. Do-hyeon's mana dissipated. The net vanished. The stadium saw a black spike protruding 3 meters high from the arena floor. Dark Ma in the Academy Stadium, in front of 5,000 spectators. In the box, the tower's emissaries stood up simultaneously. Rector Han Mung-young knocked over his cup. Tea spilled onto the railing. He didn't notice. So Baek-ho turned pale, not from fear, from recognition. He was S rank. He knew what dark mana was. He knew where it came from.
The only source of dark mana on the Hyunju continent had been sealed at the bottom of Mangal 1,000 years ago. Jae-in stared at the spike and didn't understand. She wasn't S-rank. She didn't know. But she saw her father's face, and for the first time in her life, she saw fear on it. Do-hyeon stood facing the spike. His shackles had vanished. The mana channels in his hands trembled from the strain. He looked at Do-hyeon and saw his eyes. Black. Completely. No whites. Yeonhwa stepped forward for 3 seconds. No more. Long enough to see the world through his eyes. Long enough for Do-hyeon to see in the 17-year-old boy something that made his instincts scream to run. Do-hyeon was a professional. Professionals survive because they listen to their instincts. He raised his hand. He said one word, "I surrender." The stadium fell silent. 5,000 people. Silence. The chosen one of the Soh House. 26 wins, 0 losses. He surrendered to an F rank. The referee announced the winner. Cha Do-hyeon, F rank, skill, telepathic link, wins. The silence lasted another 3 seconds. Then the stadium erupted, not with applause, with shouts, with questions. How? What was that? What was that black spike? Why is the crystal showing F? How can an F rank use a 6th tier technique? Do-hyeon stood in the arena, motionless. Yeonhwa stepped back into the channel. His eyes returned to normal. The crystal around his neck glowed steadily. F, 47 OM. The Seals lost 0.8% for the shadow of the first night. Total 95-7. No, he had miscounted. 95.3. Yeonhwa silently showed him the difference. The 3-second advance cost another 0.4. Dual consciousness consumes seals separately from techniques. He remembered. Expensive, but effective. Do-hyeon left the arena without looking back. He stopped in the corridor beneath the stands. He leaned against the wall. His hands were shaking. Not from pain, from what he had seen in the boy's eyes. He whispered to himself, "This isn't a human." In the Soh House box, he stood up and left. Jae-in remained. She was looking at the arena, at the boy in the ragged uniform, at the rag he was clutching in his right hand, brown with blood, with a name embroidered in crooked stitches. She recognized that rag. She had seen it that morning at Mangal's, when the pastry had fallen out of his pocket into the mud. She remembered, and he knew she remembered, because he stood there and looked straight at her, through 5,000 spectators, through the screams and chaos, straight into her eyes. Yeonhwa whispered in his head, "Enough." He lowered his gaze, turned away, left the arena. Behind him, the roar of the stadium echoed, a sound that in an hour would become news, which in 2 would become a rumor, which in 3 would reach every academy on the continent. F-rank defeated A+. The chosen one surrendered. Dark mana in the Cheonran arena. The world shifted by 1 degree, and the towers felt it. A day after the Tournament of Honor, Rector Han Mung-yong summoned Do-hyeon to his office. For the 2nd time this semester, a new cup sat on the table. He had broken the old one at the stadium. He sat there and looked at Do-hyeon with the same gaze as the first time. S-rank eyes that see much, but not everything. He said, "Dark mana." Do-hyeon remained silent. The rector continued, "Dark mana in the arena of my academy, in front of 5,000 witnesses and 3 envoys of the towers." He took a sip of tea. His hand didn't tremble. The tea didn't tremble. Control restored. He asked where it came from. Do-hyeon replied with what he had prepared in advance. His telepathic link skill distorts the surrounding mana under extreme stress. The Mangal Pass is saturated with dark mana. He spent 3 days there. Residual background. It was a lie. The rector knew it was a lie. Do-hyeon knew the rector knew. The rector finished his tea. He said, "The Inter-Academy tournament is in 10 days. You're still my participant. I ordered the battle recording destroyed." A pause. "The recording has already been distributed." Do-hyeon nodded. He stood up. At the door, the rector said to his back,
The Cheonsu Observatory has detected an anomaly in the Mangal seals, a drop of over 4% over the last month. For the first time in 1,000 years, the council has ordered an inspection.
In 20 days, he turned around. The rector was looking at him, not as a student, as a chess piece. In 20 days, an inspector from the second tower will arrive here. If you have anything to hide, hide it before then. Do-hyeon bowed and left. He stopped in the hallway. Yeonhwa was silent. Then she said, "The second tower, Yoon Chol-su, the one who performed the sealing ritual 1,000 years ago, the one who saw my face. If his inspector even senses a trace of the channel, they'll find both of us in a week. 20 days, 10 before the tournament, 10 after, until the inspection." Do-hyeon walked down the hallway and counted. Yeonhwa counted along with him. They thought simultaneously through the channel, like two streams in a single channel. The tournament, the inspection, mother, Jae-in, Baekho, towers, every variable multiplied by 10. He went into the laundry room, closed the door, sat down on the floor. Yeonhwa spoke. "The inspector will scan the academy grounds and the Mangal chasm, my sarcophagus, the seals. If they see that the seals have weakened by 5%, they'll start looking for the cause. The source is the channel. The channel is you." Pause. "There is a way." He listened. She explained. "The seals can be disguised, temporarily. If she compresses her aura inside the sarcophagus and stops feeding the channel during the inspection, the seals will appear intact, like plaster over a crack, smooth on the outside, ruined on the inside. But the inspectors only check the outside, the condition. She won't be able to compress her aura for more than 3 days. 3 days without the channel. 3 days without her mana. 3 days when he'll be back to who he was. F rank. 47 HP T1. Naked. If anyone attacks him during these 3 days, he'll die like a regular F rank. Without spikes, without shadows, without her voice in his head." He nodded. He accepted. Yeonhwa was silent for a moment. Then she said, more quietly, "I don't want to be silent for 3 days." He didn't answer, but through the channel, she sensed that he didn't want to either. They didn't discuss it further. 10 days until the tournament. He trained every night. Yeonhwa unlocked a new tier of techniques for him. Tier 5, Abyss Beneath the Feet, a dark mana zone with a 15-meter radius. Within the zone, all shadows belong to him. Skills below T5 are suppressed by 30%. Cost per seal, 0.6% per minute. Expensive. But in the tournament arena, this would mean that any opponent below A rank would lose a third of their power simply by standing near him. 3 mandatory applications. First, darkness filled the underground arsenal. The shadows on the walls came to life. They shifted toward the center. He stood in the center and felt every shadow as an extension of his own fingers. Second, the shadows grew denser. He could form walls from them, shields, steps. Third, the area expanded to 20 meters, more than allowed for the 5th tier. Yeonhwa noticed. She said, "You're learning faster than you should." He didn't understand. She explained. "An ordinary person masters a borrowed technique in 3 applications and reaches the basic level. On your 3rd application, you exceeded the base by a third. It's not speed, it's resonance." A pause, as if the technique isn't foreign to you, as if you're remembering rather than learning. He remained silent. So did she. They both knew what that meant. The Cha surname, shattered blood, 1,000 years ago. They didn't discuss it, for now. On the 7th day before the tournament, Gyuwon brought new information. Jae-in changed her strategy. After the Anointed One's defeat, she didn't break. She escalated. As always. She registered for the Inter-Academy tournament personally, not through a champion, by herself. So Jae-in, A rank, 12,400 OM, skill, Crimson Chain. She wanted to kill him herself. in front of everyone. But that wasn't all. Yuan was trembling as he handed over the second part. The So family had contacted his father. So Baekho submitted a request to the Tower Council for an expanded inspection of the evaluation crystal belonging to a student at Cheonran named Cha Do-hyeon. The grounds? Suspicion of rank falsification. If the inspection is approved, he will be taken to the observatory. They will connect to a diagnostic artifact, which scans not only the core, but also the space around it. Borrowed mana will become visible. The channel will be detected. The end. Do-hyun read the note. He burned it. Yeonhwa said, "An extended inspection requires the approval of 2 towers. So Baekho reports directly to the second tower. He needs 1 more. Which tower will approve?" Do-hyun thought. The first. The Tower of Control. They oversee order in the academies. The anomaly at the Tournament of Honor is already on their desk. With So Baekho, all it takes is a formal request. Timeline. Approval takes 10 days. The tournament is in 7 days. If he wins the tournament before the investigation is approved, attention will shift. News, fame, public pressure. It's harder to conduct a secret investigation on a tournament hero than on a nameless F rank. Yeonhwa approved. Logical, he added through the channel. But if I lose the tournament, they'll approve the check the very next day, she replied. So don't lose, he smirked. For the first time all semester, she sensed that smirk through the channel and replied with something he couldn't quite place. Not approval, not joy. Something closer to what a person feels when looking at a fire in the fireplace after 1,000 years of darkness. On the 6th day before the tournament, Nam So-yeon knocked on his door. She had come to check on him, as a healer. She said she'd heard about the fight at the Tournament of Honor, that the entire healing faculty had been discussing it, that she was worried. She stood in the doorway, bags under her eyes. D rank. The daughter of a doctor from the lower district. She asked if everything was all right with him. He said yes. She looked at him. His hands were clean. His uniform was intact. The crystal around his neck glowed dimly. She saw nothing unusual. But she was a healer, and healers sense others' pain. She said quietly, "You're not okay." He didn't answer. She took a jar of ointment out of her bag, set it on the table, said it was for bruises, and left. Yeonhwa was silent throughout the conversation. Then she said, "She's dangerous. Not to you, to us." Do-hyun put the ointment in a drawer. He didn't throw it away. He put it away. Yeonhwa noticed. She said nothing. 6 days until the tournament. Seals 94.1%. Crystal F 47 OM. Somewhere in the second tower residence, Archmage Yoon Cholsu was reading the envoy's report on the Tournament of Honor. Dark mana, F rank, Mangal's failure. The seals have weakened. He closed the report. He looked out the window and spoke quietly. Sooner than I thought. 3 days before the Inter-Academy tournament, delegations from 4 academies arrived at the Cheonran Academy. The 40,000-seat stadium was being prepared around the clock. The Imperial box was polished to a shine. For the first time in 10 years, the 3 towers confirmed their personal presence. Not envoys, the archmages themselves. The 2nd, the 5th, the 6th. SSS ranks. A total of over 2,400,000 MP in a single box. Yeonhwa said it wasn't a coincidence. The 3 towers don't attend student tournaments. They came for this one. More precisely, for what he demonstrated at the Tournament of Honor. Dark mana. They want to see it with their own eyes. Do-hyun has been training these past few nights. Yeonhwa revealed to him the technique he was supposed to use in the final. The crown of the first night, T7. The highest tier available to him without critical damage to his seals. She explained, "The crown of the first night is not an attack. It is a manifestation. Dark mana takes the form of a throne-like shadow above the caster's head. Within this shadow, any artifact below S rank crumbles. Any defense below T6 breaks.
Any opponent below SS rank feels pressure on their knees. Not magical, hierarchical. The aura of the Demon Empress. Ancient, absolute. Cost in seals, 1.2% per use. Expensive. But this is the final.
One strike. One time. He had practiced the form without activation, the movement of his hand, the position of his fingers. Yeonhwa guided his body. He would save the final, mandatory third use for the arena. In the arena, it would become his own. Forever. 2 days before the tournament, Choi Yi-jun came to him with information. He had used his connections at court. Crown Princess Song Ah-rim would be in the Imperial box. B rank. 16 years old. Formally weak. Politically, the most powerful person in the stands after the Archmages. The heir to the throne. Yi-jun said that after the Tournament of Honor, rumors were circulating in the capital about an F rank defeating an A+. The princess took an interest. She sent a secret observer to the academy last week. Do-hyeon asked why he needed to know this. Yi-jun replied, "Because if the princess decides you're useful, she'll offer her patronage. And the throne's patronage makes you untouchable to the houses. Even to the So, even to the towers. Formally," Do-hyun thought. Yeonhwa had said over the channel, "Don't trust thrones. I sat on one." He smirked inwardly, but he remembered. A tool is a tool. It doesn't matter who offers it. What matters is who controls it. The day before the tournament, So Baek-ho arrived at the academy in person. S rank, 50,000 OM, head of the So House. He walked through the corridors like a master. Students parted ways. Teachers bowed. He met with the rector behind closed doors. No one knew what they discussed. But Gyu-won saw the rector emerge from his office an hour later with the look of a man who had swallowed a bone. Baek-ho demanded that Do-hyeon be removed from the tournament. The rector refused. Baek-ho threatened him. The rector refused anyway. Because the announcement of the Tournament of Honor had spread to all the academies, and removing Do-hyeon now would mean confirming that Chonron was afraid of the House of So. The rector wasn't afraid of the House of So. He was afraid of looking like he was afraid. S-rank politics. That evening, Do-hyeon stood on the roof and looked down at the stadium. Workers were installing the final rows. 40,000 seats. Tomorrow, everyone would be filled. Yeonhwa looked at him with her eyes. She said, "I've seen bigger arenas. 10,000 years ago, when demons and humans were still fighting openly. Stadiums for 100,000. Blood flowed from the stands." She paused. "This will be the first arena where I win without killing." He corrected her. "You don't win. I win." She replied, "We do." A pause. A warm one. The first warm pause of the entire semester. He didn't fill it with words. Tournament day. Morning. Cold. Like that morning at Mangal's. Do-hyun put on a uniform made from scraps. The sleeves were 2 fingers too long. In his pocket, a rag with his mother's name. Crooked stitches. Brown stains. He left the room. Yi-jun was waiting for him in the hallway. Someone else was standing nearby. Im Gyu-hwan. Pale, shivering, but standing. He handed Do-hyun a piece of paper, the latest information. The tournament bracket, Category F, B rank. 8 participants from 4 academies. Do-hyun on the left side of the bracket, Jae-in on the right. They'll meet in the final if they both make it. 3 matches each between them. His first opponent, Ryu Chang-ho, B rank, Tongwon Academy, 2,800 OM. Ice Spear skill, T4. Strong, fast, not an aristocrat. Scholarship student, hard worker. Do-hyun looked at the name. This man hadn't done him any harm. Yeonhwa had said, "Don't think about it. The arena is no place for conscience." He put the sheet away. He headed to the stadium. 40,000 spectators. The roar of the crowd could be heard a kilometer away. At the participants' entrance, a girl stopped him. Short, dark hair, bags under her eyes. Nam So-yeon. She handed him a bandage. "Just in case," she said. He took the bandage. Their fingers touched. Yeonhwa flinched inside the channel, abruptly, as if someone had stepped on her nerve. So-yeon smiled and walked away. Do-hyeon entered the corridor beneath the stands, the roar of the stadium from above. Yeonhwa was silent. He could sense through the channel that she wanted to say something. She didn't speak. He didn't ask. He stepped out onto the arena. 40,000 people. The Imperial Box. 3 SSS rank archmages. Princess Song Arim in a separate section. The So House Box. Baekho and Jae-in. The Rector's Box. Han Mong-yong with a new cup. Broadcast cameras on every pillar. The entire continent is watching. The referee stepped into the center. He announced the first match in the FB category. Cha Do-hyeon, Chonran Academy, F rank, 47 OM, against Ryu Chang-ho, Tongwon Academy, B rank, 2,800 OM. The stadium roared. F rank at an inter-academy tournament. Some laughed. Some recalled the rumors about the Tournament of Honor. Ryu Chang-ho stepped out from the other side, young, serious, a spear of white ice in his hand. He looked at Do-hyeon without mockery, without fear, with respect. He had heard the rumors. He wasn't laughing. He was prepared. The gong sounded. Chang-ho attacked first. Ice spear, T4. A quick thrust, straight, clean, good technique, honest technique. Do-hyeon dodged with a shadow step. 1 step, 3 meters to the side, minimal. Chang-ho spun around. A second thrust, a third, a fourth, each more precise than the last. He learned in battle, adapted, a good fighter. Yeonhwa said, "Quickly, don't make him suffer." Do-hyeon nodded inwardly. Clawed shadow, T4. A single blade emerged from the shadows beneath Chang-ho's spear. It struck the shaft. The spear cracked. Ice shattered. Chang-ho was left holding a shard. He looked at the broken weapon, then at Do-hyeon. His crystal displayed F47 OM. Chang-ho exhaled. He raised his hand. "I surrender, fair and square, without humiliation." The stadium applauded. Not for Do-hyeon, for Chang-ho, for his dignity. But then the applause shifted to the boy in the makeshift uniform who had defeated a B-rank opponent with a single move. Do-hyeon bowed to his opponent. Chang-ho bowed in return. In the Imperial Box, Princess Son Arim leaned toward her bodyguard. She said 4 words. The bodyguard nodded and left. The second match in an hour. The third in 3. Then the final. Do-hyeon stood in the corridor beneath the stands and waited. Yeonhwa counted the seals. 93.7. Every match was worth it, but there were 2 matches left before the final, and in the final, Jae-in was waiting, with the crimson chain, with T5 paralyzing poison, with a smile, with 800,000 gold pieces, the price of his life. He clenched the rag in his pocket. Crooked paths. The second opponent entered the arena an hour later. Moon Hyun-woo, B rank, 3,100 HP. Kimsan Academy, granite armor skill, T4, defender, broad-shouldered, slow. The tactic was simple. Withstand any blow and return 1. Do-hyeon had seen his fight in the preliminary round. Moon Hyun had taken 3 A- rank blows to the chest without batting an eye. He struck back once. The opponent flew off the edge of the arena. Yeonhwa assessed him. T4 armor, high durability. It's possible to pierce it with clawed shadow, but it would take 3 hits. 3 hits mean attention. Attention means questions. She suggested another way. Do-hyeon agreed. The gong sounded. Moon Hyun didn't attack. He stood there. He waited. Granite armor covered his body from neck to feet. Gray, solid, not a single crack. Do-hyeon didn't attack either. He stood opposite him, arms at his sides, an F-rank crystal around his neck. The stadium waited. 10 seconds, 20, 30. Neither of them moved. The commentator began to get nervous. Someone in the stands whistled. Do-hyeon raised his right hand. Slowly. A single movement. Whisper of the Abyss. T1. A single image straight into Moon-hyun's mind. No pain. No fear. An image. A crack in the granite armor. A thin one. On the left side. Between the third and fourth ribs, where the armor is thinnest because the body expands when breathing and the protection adapts with a split-second delay. Moon-hyun flinched, involuntarily. He received a foreign image in his head, and his body reacted before his mind could. His left hand shot out to cover his side. The armor shifted, and the crack that hadn't been there became real. For a single second, exactly where the image had shown. The clawed shadow. T4. A single blade into the crack. The black blade passed through the granite armor and stopped a centimeter from his skin. It didn't pierce through. It froze. Moon-hyun looked down at the black blade protruding from his armor. At its tip, a centimeter from his ribs. He looked up at Do-hyeon. Do-hyeon was standing in the same spot. His right hand was lowered. His face was blank. Moon-hyun-woo was a defender. He knew how to calculate. The blade had stopped not because it couldn't go any further. It had stopped because it had been stopped. 1 centimeter. A message. I could have. I didn't. Moon-hyun raised his hand. I surrender. The stadium erupted. 2 fights. 2 victories, not a single scratch on an F rank. The commentator was shouting something about the miracle of the season. In the Imperial box, Princess Song Arim stared intently at the arena. Her bodyguard returned and leaned close to her ear. She listened, nodded, leaned toward him and spoke softly. Find out everything about him. If he can't be bought, offer him me. The bodyguard's expression didn't change, but his hand trembled. In the second tower's box, Archmage Yoon Chol-soo sat motionless. SSS rank, 800,000 MPT 8 and above. 1,000 years ago, he personally conducted the ritual to seal the Demon Empress. He had seen her face. He remembered it. And now he was watching the F rank in the arena and saw something familiar. Not in his face, in his movements. In the way he raised his hand, in the way he stood motionless while his opponent waited for an attack. The Empress never attacked first. She waited. Always. Third match, semi-final. Jung Min-soo, a minus rank. 10,800 OM. Tongwon Academy. Skill, Silver Wind. T5. The first serious opponent. Min-soo stepped into the arena and looked at Do-hyeon. Not with mockery, not with respect, with hunger. She wanted this fight. She had seen the previous 2 and wanted to understand. The gong sounded. Silver wind swept across the arena. A wave of compressed air, a minus rank. 10,800 OM behind her. The space trembled. Dust rose like a wall. Do-hyeon used Shadow Step, but Min-soo was waiting. The wind covered the entire arena. There was no shadow it wouldn't blow away. He emerged from the shadows behind a column and was immediately knocked back by the gust. His feet skidded 3 meters across the stone. For the first time in the tournament, he took a direct hit. His body held up. Yeonhwa absorbed part of the impact through the channel. But the stadium saw the F rank get sent flying, and that was the moment when 40,000 spectators leaned forward in unison. Do-hyeon straightened up. The sleeve of his uniform was torn. His left shoulder went numb. Min-soo didn't give him a moment's rest. A second strike. A third. The silver wind struck from all directions. No direction. No blind spots. A T5 skill functioning like a storm. You can't dodge a storm. You can only walk through it, Yeonhwa said.
Abyss! He activated it. Abyss beneath the feet. T5. An area of dark mana spread out from his feet in a 15-meter radius. Black. Dense. The shadows in the arena came to life. They shifted toward the center. Silverwind entered the Abyss area and lost 30% of its power. 10,800 MP became 7,500. The gust that was supposed to break his ribs merely pushed him. Minsu felt it. Her eyes widened. Her skill weakened. Inside this black area in the arena, her T5 functioned as a T3. She tried to retreat beyond the Abyss's border. Do-hyeon wouldn't let her. Shadow step. Inside the Abyss, all the shadows were his. He moved instantly, not 20 meters, any point within the area. He appeared in front of her. Clawed shadow. One blade. Into her knee. Not her chest. Not her head. Into her knee. She fell to one leg. The wind around her died down. Loss of concentration. A second. He stood over her. The Abyss hummed. The shadows reached toward Minsu, pressing down on her shoulders. She raised her head. There was no blackness in his eyes. Yeonhwa didn't appear, but the pressure from the Abyss was enough. Minsu whispered, "What are you?" He didn't answer. She raised her hand. "I surrender." The Abyss vanished. The shadows returned to their places. The stadium wasn't screaming. The stadium was humming, low, anxiously, like a beehive that had sensed smoke. In the rector's box, Han Mung-yong set down a cup, slowly. His fingers turned white on the handle. He had witnessed a T5 dark mana technique performed by an F rank in his arena before the entire continent. He quietly gave an order to his assistant, "Destroy the recordings of the previous battles." The assistant replied that the recordings were already being broadcast live across the continent on 30 transmission crystals. The rector closed his eyes. Yoon Chul-soo in the second tower's box raised his hand and summoned his aide. He uttered a single sentence. The aide turned pale and left. The final match in an hour. So Jae-in versus Cha Do-hyeon. Ratings at 92.4%. The descent was accelerating. So Jae-in entered the arena in full So Clan battle gear. Black armor with a crimson border. The family artifact, the crimson chain, wrapped around her right arm from wrist to elbow. 800 years of clan history. A rank. 12,400 OM. T5 skill. She was smiling. That very smile. The library, the grill, the dining hall, the same one. 40,000 spectators. 3 SSS rank archmages. The princess. The 7 houses. Cameras broadcasting across the entire continent. Do-hyeon stood on the other side of the arena. A uniform made from scraps. The sleeves were 2 fingers too long. The left sleeve was torn after the fight with Minsu. He hadn't bothered to change it. In his right hand, he held a rag, brown with blood, with his name embroidered in crooked stitches. He raised it and looked at Jane through the fabric. She saw. She recognized him. Morning at Mangal. A pastry that had fallen into the mud. A rag with a name on it. She remembered. Her smile didn't waver, but the fingers of her left hand clenched. The referee stepped into the center. He announced, "The F category final, -B, Jane, Chonggran Academy, A rank, 12,400 OM, against Cha Do-hyeon, Chonggran Academy, F rank, 47 OM." The stadium roared. 2 from the same academy. Everyone knew the story. The expedition to Mangal. The boy fell. He survived. He returned. Rumors. Truth. Lies. No one knew for sure, but everyone wanted to see. The gong sounded. Jae-in didn't wait. The crimson chain snapped from her hand. It spun through the air. 10 meters of crimson steel imbued with A-rank mana.
T5 paralysis poison was woven into the chain's links. A touch meant paralysis in 3 seconds, death in 30. Do-hyeon knew. Yeonhwa had told him. The chain struck. Quickly, precisely, in an arc from above. A strike a C rank wouldn't have had time to see. Do-hyeon didn't dodge. He raised his left hand, bare, without a glove, without protection, and caught the chain. The stadium fell silent. He was holding the crimson chain of the House of So with his bare hand. The poison entered through his skin. He could feel it, the cold, the tingling, the numbness rising from his fingers to his wrist. 3 seconds until paralysis. Yeonhwa neutralized the poison at the blood level, not with technique, with blood. Cha's blood, the first's blood. The poison dissolved like salt in boiling water. The numbness vanished. He stood there holding her chain with his bare hand, without consequence. Jae-in yanked the chain back. She couldn't. His fingers clenched with a strength an F rank shouldn't possess. Yeonhwa fed her muscles through the channel. Minimal dark mana, T1 enhancement, almost free through the seals. Jae-in tugged again. Useless. She poured in mana. 12,400 MP in a single pull. The chain tightened. Do-hyeon didn't move. He stood there staring at her. Across 10 meters of crimson steel, across 40,000 spectators. A month and a half had passed since that morning when she'd asked about his skill in the library, and he'd told her everything. He began winding the chain around his arm, slowly, link by link. The stadium watched as an F rank wound an A rank family artifact around his fist. Jane let go of the chain. She jumped back. She activated the second form of her skill, Crimson Thorns. Scarlet stakes sprouted from the ground around Do-hyeon. T5, 12 of them, in a circle. He stood in the center. Abyss beneath the feet activated instantly. The dark area spread out. The spikes entered the abyss and lost 30% of their density. T5 became T3. He passed through the ring of spikes. They scratched his form, not his skin. Jane retreated, for the first time in the fight. She attacked again. Third form, Crimson Rain. Hundreds of tiny shards of mana from the sky. Area of effect strike, impossible to dodge. Do-hyeon raised his head. The shards entered the abyss's area. They weakened. He raised both hands. Clawed shadow. Not a single blade. 5. In a fan formation. They met the rain in midair, black against crimson. The stadium watched as the two colors collided above the arena and scattered into sparks. Beautiful, deadly. Jane was breathing heavily. 3 forms of the skill. Each cost her more than 2,000 MP. She had spent more than 6,000. About 6 remained. Do-hyeon hadn't spent any of his own. 47 MP untouched, all through the channel. But the seals were falling. 91.8, 91.5, 91.1. Every second of the abyss was costly. Yeonhwa counted. She said, "Finish it." Jae-in gathered the remnants of her mana. The final attack. The fourth form. The hidden. Crimson Heart. All the mana of the So clan concentrated in a single point, at the center of the chain. An explosion with a 10-meter radius kills everything up to and including A rank and below. A suicidal technique. She was ready to die to kill him. Do-hyeon saw the mana gathering in her hands, saw the red glow, saw her eyes go blank. Just like his had that morning at the edge of Mangal. She had made up her mind. Yeonhwa said, "Now!" Do-hyeon raised his right hand, the one with the crimson chain wrapped around it. And for the first time all semester, he allowed the crystal around his neck to reveal what it was not supposed to show. Not a number. The crystal still glowed F, 47 OM. But a shadow unfolded over the arena. Huge, in the shape of a throne.
black, ancient, the crown of the first night. T7, third application, final. The technique became his. The throne's shadow covered the arena.
Pressure crashed down on the stadium, not on the spectators, on the arena, on Jane, on her chain, on the So clan's mana gathered for the final blow. The Crimson Chain, a family artifact, 800 years of history. 8 generations of the So clan had poured their power into it. Under the throne's shadow of the crown of the first night, it began to tremble. The links shook. The crimson color faded. Yeonhwa spoke through the channel via his ears. Not to him, to the chain, to the artifact, in a language that hadn't existed for 1,000 years. And the crimson chain of the So house crumbled to ashes. 800 years of history, ashes. Along with the chain, the fourth form crumbled. Jaein's mana burst forth, uncontrollably. The explosion that was supposed to destroy everything within a 10-meter radius shot upward, into the throne's shadow. The shadow swallowed it, silently. But the recoil passed through Jane, her right hand. From her fingertips to her shoulder, the mana channels burned out. Her hand turned black. It hung limp, dead. Jane screamed, not from pain, from loss. The hand, the chain, mana, home, all at once. She fell to her knees. Do-hyeon approached, slowly. The throne's shadow above him was fading. He leaned down. He placed the blood-stained rag on her forehead, her blood on his fabric, his name embroidered by his mother's hands on her skin. He spoke calmly. You said 800,000 gold. The House of So owes the Imperial Bank 3,200,000. I just paid off your debt. The stadium was silent. 40,000 people. Silence. The broadcast cameras were rolling. 30 crystals across the continent transmitted the moment when the crimson chain crumbled to ashes. They transmitted Jane's scream. They broadcast the boy in a uniform made of scrap metal, placing a rag on the forehead of the heiress of the third house. They broadcast the silence of the 40,000-seat stadium. The recording could not be destroyed. It already belonged to the world. Jane lay in the arena. Her right arm was black from shoulder to fingertips. Her mana channels were seared. Healers from the academy rushed onto the field, 4 of them. Leading them was senior healer Cha Yeonhwa, A rank, specializing in regeneration. He examined the arm. He raised his head. He looked at the rector in the box. He shook his head. The arm could not be restored. So Baekho stood in the So house box. He wasn't sitting. He was standing. The armrest of the chair was crushed by his S-rank fingers. He looked at his daughter, at her arm, at the boy, at the ashes. 800 years. An artifact his great-grandfather had carried through the war with the demons. Ashes. Standing next to him was the manager of the So house, pale. He said quietly that the Imperial Bank had confirmed it. The So house's debt had been bought out by a third party. 3,200,000 gold pieces. The buyer was anonymous. Baekho turned to the manager. Where would an F rank get 3 million? The manager didn't know. Do-hyeon didn't have 3 million either. But Choi Woo-jun had access to the Choi House Trust Fund, which he used through shell companies. A public figure of vengeance. Everyone would think the Choi House was behind the fall of the So house. Woo-jun knew what he was getting into. He hated the So house more than he loved money. Personal reasons. He didn't say what they were. Do-hyeon didn't ask. The judge announced the winner. Cha Do-hyeon, F rank, 47 OM, Chungran Academy, champion of the Inter-Academy Tournament in the F Category B. The stadium erupted, not with silence, with sound. A roar, a scream, a stampede, 40,000 voices at once. Do-hyeon stood in the arena and didn't move. Yeonhwa listened through his ears. 40,000 voices.
The last time she'd heard that many was when cities were burning and people were screaming in terror. This sound was different. She didn't know what to call it. He knew, but he didn't explain. She would figure it out on her own, or she wouldn't. In the imperial box, Rector Han Mung-yong picked up a cup. He raised it to his lips. His hand trembled. Tea spilled onto his chin. He didn't notice. He saw how an F-rank student destroyed an A-rank artifact with 800 years of history in a single move. He saw the shadow on the throne. He knew what it was. Not exactly, but enough. He quietly gave an order to his assistant. Double the security for student Cha Do-hyeon, officially for his safety, in reality for surveillance. Archmage Yoon Chol-soo sat in the second tower's box, SSS rank, 800,000 OM. He hadn't moved the entire fight, didn't stand up, his expression didn't change. But when the throne's shadow unfolded over the arena, he smiled. The maid standing behind his chair saw that smile. The same maid who had faithfully served him for 20 years. She had seen him angry. She had seen him pensive. She had seen him indifferent. But this smile was new, joy, genuine, deep, like that of a man who had waited 1,000 years for a letter and finally saw the postman on the horizon. She was more frightened by this smile than by anything she had seen in 20 years. He whispered a single word, Yeonhwa, with his lips, soundlessly. But Do-hyeon heard it, through the channel, through her ears, through a connection that passed through stone and seals and 400 meters of abyss. Yeonhwa heard her name spoken in a voice she would recognize 10,000 years from now. And for the first time all semester, through the channel, Do-hyeon sensed from her neither coldness, nor calculation, nor approval. Rage, pure, white, aged for 3,000 years. He betrayed me first. She said it so quietly that the channel barely transmitted. Yoon Chol-soo, 1,000 years ago. He was mine, and he led the towers to the sarcophagus. Pause. He knew I was pregnant. Do-hyeon stood in the arena amid the roar of the crowd and heard through the channel a story that no one had known for 1,000 years. She told it briefly, without details, just the facts. Yoon Chol-soo was human. She was the Demon Empress. They were together. He found out about the child. He was afraid of what would be born from the union of a demon and a human. He brought 6 archmages. They sealed her in her 9th month. She gave birth in the sarcophagus, alone, in the darkness, a boy, and she managed to perform the rite of the split blood before the seals closed completely. She divided her soul into 2 parts. Half remained in the sarcophagus, half left with the child. The child vanished into the human world. The Cha lineage, generation after generation, growing weaker, growing ever more inconspicuous. The crystal of judgment, created by the towers 1,000 years ago, was not made to sort people by strength. It was created to find the descendants of Cha, to mark them with an F rank, to send them on deadly missions, to exterminate them quietly, generation after generation. Do-hyeon's mother, the last Cha woman, a laundress from the lower district. Do-hyeon, the last man. The So House had been receiving contracts to dispose of the Cha children for generations. It was no coincidence. By order of the second tower, by order of Yoon Chol-soo, the man who, 1,000 years ago, betrayed the mother of his child and has since methodically destroyed the line of his own descendants. Do-hyeon stood in the arena. The crowd chanted his name. The cameras rolled. He heard hear anything but Yeonhwa's voice. She said, "Now you know." He knew. He clenched the rag. Crooked paths. Cha Do-hyeon. Cha Yoon-so. The Cha surname. The blood of the first. His mother had washed the laundry of aristocrats her whole life and didn't know that her blood was older than any house on the continent. He replied through the channel, one word, remembered. Yeonhwa fell silent, but through the channel he sensed she was crying, not with her eyes. A body in a sarcophagus has no tears. Something deeper, something that has no name in the language of humans. 2 hours after the final, So Baek-ho left the stadium. His motorcade of 4 armored vehicles drove out through the academy's north gate. He sat alone in the lead vehicle. S rank, 50,000 OM. The man who had built the House of So for 30 years, whose daughter lay in the infirmary with a dead hand, whose family artifact had been reduced to ashes in the arena over the course of 800 years, whose debt of 3,200,000 belonged to an anonymous buyer. He wasn't going home. He was heading to the second tower, to Yoon Chol-soo. Do-hyeon knew. Gyu-hwan followed the motorcade to the gates. Lee-jun tracked the route through his people at court, the second tower. Do-hyun stood in his room, staring at the wall. Yeonhwa was silent. She had said everything that needed to be said in the arena. Now she was calculating. The seals were at 87.9%. The sensitivity threshold of the Cheongso Observatory was set to trigger at a 15% drop. 100 minus 15 equals 85. They had a margin of 2.9% before the alarm would go off. 2 or 3 uses of high-level techniques, maybe 4 if we conserve energy. Then the observatory will sound the alarm, and the towers will come, all 7 of them. Do-hyun said over the channel, "We need a plan for tomorrow, not for a month, for tomorrow." Yeonhwa agreed, "Tomorrow. Baek-ho will meet with Chol-soo. Chol-soo knows she's alive. He said her name. He was waiting for this. He was smiling. That means he has a plan. He's been preparing for this moment for 1,000 years. What could an SSS rank who betrayed the Demon Empress and spent 1,000 years exterminating her descendants? Yeonhwa said, "He wants me. Not dead, alive." Do-hyun didn't understand. She explained, Yoon Chol-soo betrayed her not because he was afraid of the child. He betrayed her because he wanted her power. Seals don't kill. They contain and slowly drain. For 1,000 years, the towers fed on the mana from the seals. Yeonhwa's mana. She was the battery, the source, the fuel. The Council's SSS ranks didn't reach that level naturally. They drained it from her, through the seals, over 1,000 years. If Yeonhwa breaks free, the towers will lose their source. Their power will begin to wane. In a generation, they will cease to be SSS. In 2 generations, the Council will collapse. Chol-soo knows this better than anyone. He is the architect of the entire system. That is why he does not want to destroy it, but to rewrite it. New seals, a new sarcophagus, a new 1,000 years. And for that, he needs a conduit. A conduit that leads to her. A conduit that passes through Do-hyun. He needs Do-hyun alive, at least for a while. Do-hyun closed his eyes. Yeonhwa said, Baek-ho will tell him everything, about the dark mana in the arena, about the throne's shadow, about the F-rank boy with the surname Cha. Chol-soo will piece the facts together in a minute. He'll know who I am, where I am, and how to get to me, through you. Pause. We have time while he prepares the reinscription ritual. The ritual requires 7, all 7 towers. Gathering them together will take at least 2 weeks. 2 weeks. Do-hyun opened his eyes. 2 weeks to destroy the So house legally. 2 weeks to deprive Chol-soo of his instrument on the continent. 2 weeks to become strong enough for what comes next. Yeonhwa asked, "Are you ready?" He replied, "No, but let's begin." The next morning, Do-hyeon arrived at the Academy's Chamber of Commerce. Yoo-jun was with him. In Yoo-jun's hands were the documents for the So House's debt. 3,200,000 gold pieces, purchased through the Cho House Trust Fund. Anonymity lifted. The buyer has been revealed. Cho Yoo-jun, the second son of the Cho House, an outcast.
A public figure. He filed for a compulsory audit of the So House. By law, the debt holder has the right to demand a full financial audit of the debtor. The Chamber of Commerce accepted the request. The audit is scheduled for 3 days. When the auditors enter the So House's accounting department, they will find disposal contracts. Not just one boy, generations, dozens of names, dozens of F-rank families sent to their deaths for insurance grants. Do-hyeon knew the contracts were there because Yeonhwa remembered, through the channel, through blood, through 1,000 years of memory dissolved into the Cha lineage. She saw every Cha child who perished on an expedition paid for by the So House. She felt every death through a shattered soul. 1,000 years. That same day, Do-hyeon did one more thing. He went to see his mother. She lived in a small room next to the Academy's laundry. He sat down beside her. She stroked his head, just like when he was 5. He said nothing. She asked nothing. Yeonhwa looked through his eyes, and this time she didn't look away. She looked at the laundress's hands, red from the detergent, calloused, the hands of the last woman of the Cha family. Hands that could have belonged to a queen if 1,000 years ago one man hadn't betrayed another. Through the channel, Do-hyeon felt Yeonhwa speak without words, without sound, without language, in a single pure impulse through a shattered soul. My blood. Do-hyeon's mother flinched. She looked away, as if she'd heard something distant. Then she smiled. She told him it was a draft. Do-hyeon nodded. That evening, he stood on the roof and looked at the stadium. Workers were dismantling the stands. The ashes of the Crimson Chain had already been swept away, but the shadow of the throne remained on the stone of the arena, a black imprint in the shape of a throne. They couldn't scrub it off. The stone had absorbed the dark mana. Forever. Yeonhwa said, "My throne stood at the center of Mangal for 10,000 years. When the towers sealed me away, they thought they had destroyed it. They were wrong. The throne cannot be destroyed. It can only be passed on." He looked at the black imprint. She continued, "When the seals drop to 0, the throne will return. And whoever it will be the next," pause, "it will be you or me, not both." He didn't answer. 12 days until Chol-soo gathers the 7. 3 days until the So House audit. Seals at 87.9%. Reserve at 2.9 until the alarm. Every percentage counts. Every day counts. Where somewhere in the second tower, Yoon Chol-soo stood before a wall on which 7 portraits hung. 7 archmages, 7 towers. He was taking them down one by one, sending out pigeons, convening the council. For the first time in 200 years, he did it with a smile. That very one, the one that made his maid hide in the pantry. On the 3rd day after the tournament, auditors from the Chamber of Commerce entered the So family estate. 12 people bearing the seals of the Imperial Bank. So Baek-ho met them in the reception hall. Calm. An S rank shows no fear of accountants. He granted access to the main accounting records. Clean. Flawless. 30 years without a single violation. He thought the second archive was safely hidden. He was wrong. Because 2 nights before the audit, Gyu-hwan had entered the estate through the servant's entrance using a key given to him by the manager of the lower wing. The manager of the lower wing owed Yi-jun's men 400 gold pieces for gambling. The debt was written off in exchange for the key. Gyu-hwan found the second archive behind a false wall in Baek-ho's study. He memorized the location. He left. He passed it on to Do-hyeon.
Do-hyeon passed it on to Yi-jun. Yi-jun passed the coordinates to the auditors in an anonymous letter bearing the Che House seal. The auditors found the second archive 4 hours after the audit began. Contracts, hundreds of them, over 30 years. Disposal, witness elimination, falsification of insurance grants, exploitation of F-rank students as expendable resources, names, dates, amounts. The So clan seal on every document. So Baek-ho stood in the reception hall when the senior auditor emerged with a folder of documents in his hands. Baek-ho looked at the folder, at the seal, at the auditor's face. He understood. Baek-ho activated his mana, 50,000 OM. The walls of the estate shook. The auditors backed away. He could have killed them all. S-rank against 12 civilians in a second. But the palace guard stood outside the estate gates. 4 squads, led by Captain Go Seong-jin, A-rank. He had Princess Song A-rim's order to ensure the safety of the So House audit, an order from the imperial family, the seal of the throne. Baek-ho sensed the presence of the guards beyond the walls. He sensed the throne's order. He suppressed his mana. He sat down in a chair. He closed his eyes. The So House collapsed within 6 hours. The Chamber of Commerce froze all assets. The Imperial Court issued an arrest warrant for So Baek-ho on 23 counts. The Chongran Academy expelled So Jae-in. 3 vassal houses terminated their loyalty pacts that very evening. By nightfall, the name So had been struck from the register of the 7 houses. For the first time in 500 years, Jae-in found out at the infirmary. She was lying there with her right hand dead. The healer brought her the news. She listened. She didn't scream. She didn't cry. She turned toward the wall and closed her eyes. In that moment, she resembled her father, rational to the very end. Do-hyeon didn't see it. He didn't come to watch the fall of the So House. He stood in the underground armory and trained. Yeonhwa was guiding him through new techniques, the 6th tier, because in 11 days, 7 will come, and the 6th tier won't be enough. He trained until dawn. His stats had dropped to 86.3, reserve until alert 1.3%. 1 high-tier technique, maybe 2 if he was lucky. At dawn, Nam So-yeon came to the underground arsenal. She was looking for him. She said she'd heard about the So House, that the entire lower district was celebrating. The families of the fallen F-ranks would receive compensation from frozen assets. Her father had treated some of those families. She said she didn't know how Do-hyeon had done it, but she knew it was him, not the Che House, him. He didn't confirm it, nor did he deny it. She moved closer, looked him in the eyes, said quietly, "You've changed." He was silent. She continued, "You used to be different, before Mangal, quieter, gentler. Now there's something cold about you, as if someone is standing behind your shoulder." Yeonhwa listened through the channel. She was silent. So-yeon reached out and touched his cheek. Her palm was warm, alive, ordinary, human. Yeonhwa flinched in the channel, not out of jealousy, out of pain, because she too felt that touch, through sensory synchronization, the warmth of a stranger's hand, for the first time in 1,000 years. And it wasn't her warmth, not for her. Do-hyeon gently removed So-yeon's hand. He said she didn't need to be near him, that it was dangerous to be near him. She replied that she knew. He said she didn't know. She didn't know even 1/10 of it. She looked at him. Then she nodded and left. Yeonhwa was silent all day. By evening, she spoke a single sentence. "She makes you weaker." Do-hyeon didn't answer, but through the channel, she sensed his reply. "No, she makes me human, and you know that." Yeonhwa fell silent again, this time for a long time. On the 8th day after the tournament at the Cheongso Observatory, an alarm went off, for the first time in 1,000 years. Mangal Seals, Fall 15. 2%, Strength 84.8, Red Protocol. Pigeons flew out to all 7 towers simultaneously. Archmage Yoon Chol-soo received the message during dinner. He read it, set it aside, continued eating. His aide stood nearby, waiting for orders. Chol-soo said between 2 spoonfuls of soup, "The council is convening in 3 days, not in 11 days as planned." The alarm signal sped up the process. 3 days. Do-hyeon learned from Yoo-jun, whose man at court had intercepted the pigeon. 3 days instead of 11. Yeonhwa said, "We won't make it." He replied, "We will."
Because we don't need to defeat the 7. We need to stand before them. She didn't understand. He explained. The tournament showed the continent an F rank defeating an A rank. The audit revealed the crimes of the So House. The cameras showed the throne's shadow. The entire continent has already seen it. The entire continent is already asking questions. If 7 SSS rank archmages come to the academy and kill the F rank boy who just destroyed the corrupt house, that's not a covert operation. It's a public execution in front of the whole world. They can't afford that. Not now. Yeonhwa thought. He continued, "I need one thing, a podium. If I stand before the council with cameras broadcasting across the entire continent, they won't touch me. Not because they can't, because the price will be too high." She asked. "And then?" He replied, "Then we run and prepare for a real war." 3 days. On the 2nd day, the Council of 7 Towers entered the walls of Cha Yeonhwa Academy. 7 figures, 7 SSS ranks, a combined total of over 5,600,000 OM. Rector Han Mung-yong met them at the gates. His teacup trembled in his hands. Not the tea, his hands. For the first time in 40 years, students huddled against the walls. Teachers bowed to the ground. The air hummed with the concentration of mana. 7 archmages walked down the academy corridor, and the stone beneath their feet cracked under the pressure. Yoon Chol-soo led the way. He was smiling. Do-hyeon was waiting for them in the arena. That very one, with the black imprint of a throne on the stone. He stood in the center, a uniform made of scraps, a rag in his pocket, an F-rank crystal around his neck. Broadcast cameras stood around the arena. Yi-jun had arranged it. The Cho family held a stake in 3 broadcasting crystals. A live broadcast across the entire continent. 30 million viewers. 7 archmages entered the arena. In a semicircle, Yoon Chol-soo in the center. He looked at Do-hyeon, and Do-hyeon looked at him. Their eyes met. Chol-soo said, "You know who I am." Do-hyeon replied, "You are the one who betrayed her." The cameras were recording. 30 million were listening. Chol-soo's expression didn't change. He said, "Hand over the channel, voluntarily. We'll reset the sarcophagus. You will stay alive. Your mother will stay alive. Everything will go back to the way it was." Do-hyeon replied calmly, "Like it was when you killed my bloodline's children for 1,000 years. One by one, generation after generation." The stadium was silent. The cameras were silent. 30 million were silent. Chol-soo looked at the cameras. He noticed them for the first time. His smile faltered. Do-hyeon continued. "The Council of the 7 Towers, defenders of the continent, keepers of the seals. For 1,000 years, you fed on the manna of the captive and destroyed her descendants so that no one would learn the truth. The So House was your tool. The contracts for the disposal of F ranks with the surname Cha are signed with the seal of the 2nd Tower. The auditors found them yesterday." He spoke quietly. The cameras amplified his voice. 30 million people heard every word. Yoon Chol-soo stood and looked at the boy in the scrap uniform, at the cameras, at 30 million witnesses. He couldn't kill him here. Not now. The price was too high. Do-hyeon saw it in his eyes.
calculation. The same calculation as Jae-in's. The same as Baek Ho. Rational people. They don't kill when it's not profitable. Chol-soo spoke quietly.
"We'll meet again," Do-hyeon replied. "I'm counting on it." The 7 archmages turned away. 6 of them left the arena. Chol-soo lingered. He looked at the black imprint of the throne on the stone, then at Do-hyeon. Then he moved his lips silently. "You look like her." He left. Do-hyeon stood alone in the arena. 30 million viewers watched the F-rank who had just accused the Council of the Seven Towers of a millennia-old crime on live television and survived. Yeonhwa said in his head, "We bought time, not the war." He knew. That evening, he stood on the roof and looked at the stars. Yeonhwa watched with him. She said, "Seals 84.7. Alarm active. They'll come again. No cameras. At night," he replied. "I know." She paused. Then she said, "I promised to tell you about the surname." He waited. "You didn't connect with me in Mangal. You heard the other half of your own soul. She's been waiting for you for 1,000 years, until you were close enough and broken enough to open the channel." He closed his eyes. The wind was blowing. It was cold, just like that morning. She continued, "We are one, not allies, not partners. One. And when the seals drop to 0, one of us will have to choose."
The throne or freedom? You can't have both. He opened his eyes. Below, the stadium arena, a black imprint, the throne carved into stone. He said, "I'll choose when the time comes." She replied, "So will I." Silence. Warm. The second one ever. He stood on the roof of the Chonran Academy, F-rank, 47 OM on crystal, the last man of the Cha line, half of a split soul, avenger, champion, the dead boy who turned out to be alive. In his pocket lay a rag with crooked stitches and 2 names. In his head, he heard the voice of the Empress who had been burning cities for 3,000 years and now gazed at the stars through his eyes and remained silent. Below him lay the continent of Hyunju, the 7 towers, 1,000-year-old lie, 30 million witnesses who had heard the truth, and war lay ahead. But first, the sky above the stadium split open, a rift, not magical, physical. 6 figures descended from it. The remaining towers had returned, and the figure furthest away, wearing a black hood, who shouldn't have been here, removed her hood. A face, an exact copy of Do-hyeon, 20 years older, the same cheekbones, the same slant of the eyes, the same jawline. But the eyes weren't black.
They were gold, like Yeonhwa's when she steps forward. Yeonhwa's voice rang in his head like never before. Throughout the entire semester, through all their nights, through all the battles and revelations. Frightened. This is impossible. He's been dead for 1,000 years. Do-hyeon stared at his own face, 20 years older. The face looked back at him and smiled. With Yoon Chol-soo's smile,